This conversation on the hashtag that is Law 2020, hashtag LAW 2020, and you'll be able to engage in this discussion. We are in Nebi district. We are in the midst of very, very beautiful people. But before we kick off, yes, I would like to hear from the local leaders. What are the nitty-gritties? What are the challenges? And what are they facing? Let me call upon one of the local leaders to tell us what is the situational analysis on the ground. What is happening in Nebi? Is it the same thing that is happening in Changwali? Is it the Chiliandongo? Is it the same thing that is happening there? Is it the same thing that is happening in Kawera? Is it the same thing that is happening in Apar? So let's hear from Mr. Jimmy, one of the area leaders, so that he can give us a situational analysis on that regard. Please. The floor is yours. Indeed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm called Jerry Kasamba. I come here to present the land situation in the West Nile sub-region. Mr. Speaker, sir, of the People's Parliament, land and property ownership, control, access, and use in Uganda is administered through both statutory and customary laws as stipulated in the Articles 237 and Article 26 of the 1995 Ugandan Constitution, and the Land Act Cap 27 and the Physical Planning Act 2010, the National Land Use Policy of 2006, the National Housing Policy of 2016, the National Environment Management Policy of 1994, and the Uganda Forestry Policy 2001. To mention but a few, have articulated strategies of achieving effective use, management, and administration of land. Mr. Speaker, sir, whereas Article 237 of the Ugandan Constitution empowers citizens to own land under the 4 tenure systems, majority of the land holding system in northern, eastern, and western Uganda is customary tenure, hence greatly governed, managed, and administered through unwritten customs of the communities. With more than 60 ethnic groups in Uganda, the customary land tenure constitutes about between 70 to 80%.
Yes.
As entrenched in the African traditions and customs, the continuum of rights and interests under the customary land tenure is conceived as belonging to the dead, the living, and those yet to be born. Mr. Speaker, sir, aware of the existence and mandates of the state and the customary land management administration institutions, withstanding the various bottlenecks they faced, we appreciate the various efforts of the government and the institution of traditional or cultural leadership in Uganda towards enhancing realization of effective and participatory land governance, management, and administration. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 4th National Land Awareness Week of 2020, held under the theme Secure Land Rights for Socio-Economic Transformation, aims at providing a platform for information dissemination, awareness raising, legal aid, and dialogue on the land laws policies to strengthen land stakeholders' capacity for effective and accountable service delivery of land services at the local and national levels. Mr. Speaker, sir, in a special way, allow me appreciate the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, who are with us here, the local governments of West Nile, the civil society organizations that supported this function with funding. This especially include Oxfam, Trocare, Action Aid, Bread for the World, and under the leadership of Participatory Ecological Land Management, Land Use Management, PELAM Uganda, LandNet, Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity, Food Rights Alliance, the Eastern and Southern African Farmers Forum, the Resource Rights Africa, Shelter and Settlements Alternatives, FIDA Uganda, COPAXO, Solidarity Uganda, Land Justice Network, Frederick Ebert Stefan Uganda, Uganda Land Alliance, We Effect, CEFOD, Caritas Nebi, AFAD, NAWO, SADNET, Self-Help Africa, Life Concern, APEF, the Allure Kingdom, among others, for organizing the National Land Awareness Week of 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, the land issues in West Nile are not so much detached from the national picture as enumerated in the following categories. Category 1, the administrative and boundary disputes. Mr. Speaker, sir, contested administrative boundaries between villages, sub-counties, districts, sub-regions with the Congo and also the South Sudan are a source of dispute and conflicts across the West Nile sub-region. For example, in the Jumani district, Mr. Speaker, sir, community leaders in Ofua sub-county in September of 2012 demanded the redrawing of their boundary with the Tirikwa sub-county. The sub-counties were fighting for ownership of Mugulu and Odu parishes. Disputes between districts include examples like Amuro and Ajumani over the Apa area, Gulu, Ajumani, and Amuro over a Legu area. Mr. Speaker, it is sad that some boundary disputes have taken on ethnic dimensions, as in the case of the Junam-Asholi conflict over Tegot-Afoyo portion, just across River Nile here. Noa district sometime back erected a welcome to Noya signpost at Papash Bridge, and this sparked protests and raised fears among the locals who saw it as an attempt to redraw the boundaries between the two districts and consequently between the two sub-regions of Asholi and West Nile. Mr. Speaker, sir, contestation over international borders do also exist, especially with the DRC Congo, the DR Congo, and the South Sudan. From the year 2000 to date, there have been a number of attacks by South Sudanese who claim that some parts of land in Ajumani and more districts are theirs. Recent killings, we had also situations of recent killings of Ugandan fishermen by armed men from the DRC on Lake Albert contesting fishing and territorial rights.
Yes.
The next category, Mr. Speaker, sir, is in regard to customary land boundary disputes and conflicts. This is mainly pronounced in the pretext of land belonging to a particular ethnic group to the extent that it is used to dispossess legitimate landowners in the face of the multiple creation of administrative boundaries. Mr. Speaker, I have examples here. For example, in Apa area, where the land ownership rights of locals in Ajuman and Amuru district is at stake, we have seen huge bloodshed, Mr. Speaker, in Apa. The next category is in the area of intertribal, interclan conflicts. Many examples abound here. For example, we have a case of Jupazuba community in Nepi district. We have a case in Patera community of Zombo district. We have a long-standing land dispute between the Buja community, the Kabo ethnic tribe, with the Pakish community, an Alur group in Atiak sub-county that led to burning of houses, destruction of crops, and injuries in May 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, the next category is in regard to dispossession of families, clans, and communities by one well-connected individuals wielding state power. This grab land by use of force. Example, we have a recent case in Noa district where 6 farmers from Junam were shot dead on a farm allegedly belonging to Lieutenant General Otema. So, dispossession also happens by powerful multinationals. And Mr. Speaker, sir, a case in point is in Zeus sub-county, 8 clans spearheaded a complaint against a tea company, Resori Commodities, after accusing them of having illegally acquired 1,285 hectares of land. In 2011, the locals set fire to the trees planted by the company, and later they petitioned Parliament to intervene. In 2011, the Bunyoro Kingdom rejected a request by the government to give 900 hectares of land in Masindi district to Kenyara Sugar Works, reportedly to increase sugar production in the country. In Kiredongo district, on 1st January 2017, Kiredongo Sugar Company wanted to evict people within ranches belonging to government that it had acquired the ranch and that they would have, the people have loved to be evicted and leave. And so that one, the people rejected the violent eviction. Mr. Speaker, sir, another category is institutional land conflicts with the neighboring communities. Many institutions, schools, such as schools, health centers, and places of worship are affected by this. Examples include Namten, Church of Uganda, Nyashara Primary School, and Debo Primary School in Pakwash District, to mention a few, where families have come to claim and take over the places, the pieces of land which their late parents and grandparents had given to the institutions. Most of these cases have gone to court. As a result, this is retarding development. Mr. Speaker, another area of conflict is conflict in protected areas using communities and government agencies. Many neighboring communities feel cut off from their traditional sources of livelihoods by national game parks, wildlife and forest reserves, leading to conflicts with the Uganda Wildlife Authority and the National Forestry Authority. Examples include violent confrontations between communities in Junam, attempting to collect firewood for cooking, and fishing in restricted waters within the Mashishon Falls National Park. We also have clashes between locals, commercial timber companies, and NFA over the allegations of allocation of forest land for commercial tree planting in Lendu Forest Reserve. Another conflict is with, again, NFA over encroachment on protected forests. For example, more than 1,000 people who had been cultivating in Umir Central Forest Reserve in Nebi District were given a 4-month ultimatum in September 2012 to evict the forest land or be forcefully evicted. The move drew protests from both the residents and Alur Kingdom, who claimed to have given the land to the people in 2006 for cultivation. Encroachers who are into conservation areas are dealt with harshly. That is another point of concern. For example, in May 2012, Uganda Wildlife Authority game rangers, led by a team of soldiers, destroyed crops and demolished houses in East Madi Game Reserve, Apa, in Ajomani and Amoro District. Mr. Speaker, sir, the next category of issues are related to oil-related land conflicts. The discovery of oil in the sub-regions of Bunyoro, Asholi, and West Nile sparked land scrambles and disputes. This took a number of forms. In Bulisa District, for example, there were reports of well-connected individuals within government who purchased land on or near exploration sites before the oil discoveries were made public. In West Nile, oil exploration in 2009 caused conflict between the districts of Yumbe and Arua over a border area called an Ewanga, suspected to contain oil deposits, with each party claiming ownership rights over the area. And in Noya district, almost 3,000 people faced eviction after an oil company was leased land by government, a move that caused widespread panic and anger amongst the locals who feared losing land. Mr. Speaker, sir, the next category and the last one is in regard to access to justice by women, child-headed households, and the minority indigenous communities in the face of land dispossession and evictions. Mr. Speaker, sir, the traditional justice system is obscured by financial gain, where there is no uniform fees charged as court fees. Many widows, children, and persons with disability feel disgruntled by these high costs charged by the traditional justice system. Then denial of the right to fair hearing, with traditional leaders who are mostly men assuming powers of the courts, and this is at the detriment of the women who suffer most. Mr. Speaker, there is also inadequate inclusiveness of women in the traditional justice system. Traditional justice processes often locks women out, as they are often not part of the decision-making process. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are also ambiguities in the unwritten customary laws, making the role of the traditional leaders in handling land matters very ambiguous. In most cases, they have assumed the powers of the courts, contrary to the Ugandan Constitution of 1995 and the aspirations of the National Land Policy of 2013. All these issues combined undermine the role of cultural leaders as custodians of communal land and their capacity to resolve conflicts at the community level. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I conclude, the purpose of this preamble is to set pace and spark discussion from the honorable members of this parliament to effectively engage in debate on land rights in our sub-region of the West Nile. I beg to move. I say this for God and my country.
But let me ask you this.
Yes.
This year, we saw the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, Ms. Betty Kamia, come out to say that evictions shouldn't continue during the lockdown. Now, in your assessment, have you noticed evictions continuing at this time during the lockdown? Have they continued?
Yeah, because we don't have proper evictions, but there are incidences of outright conflicts, you know, especially intertribal conflicts that have been happening within this period.
But
of
you
lockdown.
haven't had multinational companies forcing people out of their land?
We haven't.
Like we have seen in Kiriandongo, yes, in these areas.
Yeah, we haven't had, but we had a case, the one we have been saying, about the death on Lieutenant General Otama's farm. Yeah, that one happened during the eviction, in which soldiers shot 5 people. 5 people from Junam dead. In fact, the 6th one died also later on. Yeah, the 6th one died later on, and we saw that people, you know, moved from Noya, district headquarters, to Pakwash. But unfortunately, they were blocked in Pakwash to show their anger against this one that happened. And this one happened just within this lockdown period.
And also, have you noticed the arrest of land rights defenders, like we noticed in Kiriandongo? Many land rights defenders were being arrested, and the violence was being abated by the RDCs, the resident district commissioners, who are the representatives of the president at the district level, and the police. Have you noticed the same being recreated within the Nebi district?
Yes, because the most striking case has been this one, really, we are talking about. In which, you know, the people who are showing their anger marched from Noya, and they wanted to bring a petition to Pakwash district local government, and where now the tribal leaders and also the district leadership were sitting, you know, but they were blocked by the police on orders of the RDC, and so they could not now raise and submit this petition.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Now, one of the development partners, that is Action Aid International Uganda, has been carrying out an assessment in most of these areas. The Apar case, the Kwawera case, you also have the Kiriandongo case, many cases that have been taking center stage as a result of land grabbing. Let me also bring in Esther Chisembo. She is the program coordinator at Action Aid International to give us another update on their findings and recommendations on the same. Esther?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm called Esther Chisembo. I work with Action Aid Uganda. Action Aid Uganda is part of the Land Actors Forum.
I do not think you're audible with that mask.
Okay.
Yes. It's okay. You can get it off.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm called Esther Chisembo. I work with Action Aid Uganda. Action Aid Uganda is part of the Land Actors Forum, and together with other partners, with Ministry of Lands, with BLOT, with PELAM and other actors, we've been part of the organizing committee with the local governments in West Nile for this Land Awareness Week. This is the 4th Land Awareness Week in the country. We always have different Land Awareness Week. The one of last year was in Karamoja and in Wakiso district, but this time we're honored to be here in West Nile. And indeed, I want to recommend the local governments of West Nile. I want to recommend the religious leaders, the kingdom leaders that we've worked with. They've been so cooperative. We've been here since Monday this week, and we've been having different dialogues in the different districts and in different villages and sub-counties, where we have had key issues that we think are going to be very good for us to discuss. Especially this time. Here are the key issues. One, we've noticed that there's inadequate information, especially the women don't have information, and the communities on land rights. They don't know about the land laws that we have, and so we felt it's very important for us to discuss this. And as we talk right now, we have our lawyers who are in the communities trying to do sensitization, because we believe that ignorance is no law, especially in our constitution, and we believe information, the moment you have information, then you're good to fight for your rights.
All right, Esther, but help my audience and the people who are watching from their homes and the diaspora. Why is there low information dissemination among our women in this country?
This is something we've been discussing as a group, as a team, when we came in this place.
Right.
First of all, we realized that even when you have community dialogues, more men come than the women. So you find that if the women maybe had an opportunity of coming, they would get this knowledge. So we do not know whether they are being surpassed by either the traditions or the customs that are in the West Nile. This is something we have to discuss. The good thing, we endeavor to bring women on board.
I believe it is the former, the cultural laws, the cultural laws and the gender roles. A woman is supposed to be at home cooking, a woman is supposed to be at home washing, so the women are in their houses according to the customary laws, and the men are out there headhunting where they actually find the information.
Yes.
So how are you going around that, circumventing it to help the women?
Yeah, among the things that we are doing, we ensure that the good thing, we have some leaders who are women.
Right.
Who are the local leaders who are women. So we're trying to tell them, please bring women on board. Actually, to note, one of the teams today was telling us in our debrief that they were asking the men, where are the women? And the men were saying the women are cooking. After cooking, they will come and join the dialogues. So when you say that, we really appreciate that, and I think that's what we're going to discuss with the women in this
okay, go ahead,
Parliament.
Esther.
The other issue that came out was issues of succession disputes, and this entails inheritance issues.
Right.
In our preamble, the speaker who was here today, he brought up the issues of inheritance. We have, among the key issues that came out was women do not inherit land in West Nile, and yet the Constitution says that everyone can own property. And they have their reasons, really, why women should not really inherit land. And they also brought up an issue of, they called it wedlock. Children who are born out of wedlock are not supposed to inherit land. So that is something that came out, and we believe it's going to be a very good thing for us to discuss it in this honorable Parliament.
All right.
Another issue that came out was the issue of witchcraft. And this came out in a way where they were saying that if the males want land and a woman is down owning the land, they're going to say that the woman is a witch. So if you're a witch, for you to get that land, you're supposed to pay some amount of money. In most cases, they can tell you pay 1 million or more, and you find that these women are very poor, they cannot afford this amount of money. So what happens, the woman is going to back off, and then the males in a home or in a community or in a society are going to take up this land. So that is some issue that we need to discuss on. The other issue that came out was the issue of refugees. This came out, I think, prominently in Arua, if I'm not mistaken, where refugees are buying a land. Instead of getting a lease, they are buying land and as freehold, which needs to come out clear in our discussions today under this honorable Parliament. The last other issue that came out was the issue of cities. As we all know, now Arua is a city, which is a very good thing. But now, again, it's coming out with land governance issues. I believe that our group who are in Arua are going to also come and substrate more on this. So those are the key issues that came out, Mr. Speaker, which we thought would be very, very key for us.
But I'm not satisfied, Esther. You only gave me a side of the women. What about the men? What are their challenges?
For the men, among the key issues that came out for the men were privatization of the land surveyors. They're saying that they're very expensive. It was even noted in our preamble. So they're it's very hard for them to do the land transfers. That's something that came out very prominent. Just the expensive way of having the transfers of land, and then the issue of having the court cases taking long, the backlog of cases, and then how the land issues take long. That is something that came out especially for the men.
And I also understand Action Aid International Uganda, you're holding mobile legal aid clinics, and you're also giving advice to women who are illiterate, they can't write, to write their, legal documentation.
Yes,
how is that going?
With a team, we're not working alone, we're not working in isolation. It's a consortium, it's a partnership. We're having, under the dialogues, what is done in the dialogues, we're having sensitization, community sensitization, and alongside the mobile, we're calling them mobile legal aid clinics. So under this, we are having people come to the lawyers, because we're having lawyers on board, and raise their issues. And the lawyers are noting up all those issues. They're giving legal aid, they're giving legal advice where they can, and where they cannot, they are referring the cases to other legal aid providers who can give us the information, who can help out the people.
So according to the activities we've been having since Monday, 3rd August, would you say that progress is so good?
Yes, I would say progress so good.
All right, where is my area
Thank
MP
you.
for Nebi District, Mr. Godfrey? Would like to hear from the area leaders to also understand what is happening on the ground. Yes, there he comes. The floor is all yours. Please introduce yourself and what you are doing to alleviate the problems of the people of Nebi.
Thank you very much.
The mask will have to come off.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Right.
Speaker. I would like to start with a small point of correction. I'm not the honorable member of parliament for this area, although I'm putting on a suit. I'm a social worker. I work for an organization called Pelam Uganda, as already introduced. But I'm very passionate and very, very passionate about the issues of land,
Your name.
especially in this region.
Your name first.
My name is Godfrey Omruga. I work for Pelam Uganda in the Department of Advocacy.
All right.
At the Secretariat in Kampala. Now, I would like to address myself to a few issues that have been raised, Mr. Speaker, and one of them is the issue of women land rights. And indeed, as you noted, and the previous speaker, Africa as a continent across the various traditions is largely patrilineal, where certain issues are left the heads of the family, who in this case are referred to as men. And indeed, in this case, land in this region, like many other regions where land is communally held under customary laws, women are not given an equal footing with men when it comes to issue of ownership, to issue of use and access of land. So West Nile is not an exception.
What do the land laws say about that?
Well, of course, under the Constitution, the Land Act and the National Land Policy, all citizens are equal before the law. And women, as much as men, are entitled to own and use land. So they are not an exception.
All right, the floor is yours.
So, of course, this has been going on over time. In most districts in West Nile, you realize that we have very strong cultural institutions. Where we are here in Nebi, we have the Aluru Kingdom, one of the oldest kingdoms in Uganda. And they have their traditions, they have their practices, some of which are very good to enforce socio-economic development, as our theme says.
Right.
But when it comes to land, women are marginalized. And like the previous speaker said, Right Honorable Speaker, that women, even in the community dialogues, come towards the concluding remarks. They have other social chores at home, and they are not at the forefront at the decision-making tables when it comes to issues of land. But allow me specifically address myself to two issues that are peculiar to this region. One of them is the historical injustices when it came to marking boundaries, district boundaries, and putting aside land, what we are calling reserves, whether they are game reserves, whether wildlife authority, whether national forest reserves. A great portion of land in this region has been set aside by the government as reserves. And over the years, Mr. Speaker, you realize that the population in this region is increasing, and yet land is fixed. And one of the issues, one of the petitions that the people of West Nile are presenting to government is the issue of reconsidering these boundaries. That as the population increases, their livelihood is at stake. The land is fixed. So they are calling upon the government to start revisiting the boundaries to provide more land for sustenance of Ugandans in this region. The other issue I want to address myself to, and my colleague alluded to it, is the issue of refugees. Mr. Speaker, you realize that this region hosts numerous categories of refugees over the years, from the Congo, from South Sudan, to mention the alike. These refugees are welcomed. They stay here for many years. They put pressure on socio-economic facilities to the disadvantage of the locals. But as Africans, we have a spirit of brotherhood, and indeed, the people of West Nile welcome these refugees. But what's happening now, Mr. Speaker, is that the refugees have gone overboard. They are acquiring national identity cards fraudulently. They are becoming Ugandans by force. They are acquiring land outside the law. A refugee could buy land, but under leasehold, not under freehold. But they are acquiring land, securing land titles under freehold, meaning gaining permanent residence.
Is this happening yet the locals are landless, some of them?
Well, of course, in the discussion, we'll have cases, but these are issues that emerged from the community dialogues we held across the districts.
All right.
Certainly, there should be evidence to support this. So this is another area that this Honorable Parliament will discuss. Now, what are we doing as civil society? I want to speak on behalf of civil society. We're empowering communities with information. My colleague already talked about the legal aid clinics. And through our partners who are based in the region here, including the ones they listed, Seford, Sardnet, AFAD, Caritas Uganda, Action Aid, to mention but a few. We are working with these organizations to reach out to the smaller constituencies, the smaller sub-counties they are working in, with information to support our people, to empower people to defend their land rights. I'll give one case. As Pelham Uganda, we picked interest in this region over 5 years ago. We have been working in West Nile. And as I talk now, we have worked with the local government at sub-county level in Erusi sub-county, which is in Nebi district. Erusi sub-county, to register over 500 landowners, customary landowners. And we are working with the district local government, with the sub-county leaders, to make sure that we support these local communities to acquire what we call certificates of customary ownership, as one of the ways of securing their land rights, of being bona fide owners of their land, of having a legal document to show that this is their land. And as civil society organizations, we believe that this is one of the ways that's going to enhance land justice, increase the productivity on that land because there will not be disturbances, and then we'll achieve the theme we are discussing today of socio-economic transformation for our people.
In a nutshell, you're helping citizens who have customary land ownership
to register,
to be registered in the existing land laws.
Yeah, sure.
All right, go ahead.
Sure. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like also to address myself to another very, very, very critical issue, which has been alluded to by my colleague, and this is the issue of witchcraft. Witchcraft seems to have become a normal phenomena in this region. It may be true or not, as you are aware, defending the issue of witchcraft in court is an uphill task, because the evidence is between thin lines. But the practice here has been, upon the death of a head of a family, widows are dispossessed and their children from land by clan members and relatives of the late, on grounds and allegations that this widow was responsible for the death of their brother, for the death of her own husband. In all the community dialogues we have gone, Right Honorable Speaker, this has emerged as an issue. And we've been informing them that what the communities, the clan chairpersons, and the local leaders are doing is wrong. We need to educate them, we need to build their capacity to support women enjoy their land rights. We also had a conversation around parents distributing their properties, including land to their children. And many times the girl child is not considered as a child. She will marry and get land elsewhere. And we have been educating people in this region that that is wrong. The world has moved on. Girl or boy, they are all children. And we're putting to them specifically one key question from the practice of the tradition here. And this was very interesting when we got the responses. We were asking them, if you married a woman and God blessed you with 5 boys without a girl, would there be peace in that home? The question by the communities was no. And we asked them why. They said, of course, we would like gender balance. In my children, I would like a boy and a girl. Then what happens if you are distributing your properties? The girl ceases to be a child. So that was a very interesting discourse with the communities. Many of them were excited. We gave them information. And I think we're on the right track. My appeal, Right Honorable Speaker, as I submit, is for the leaders here, the local government leaders, the area politicians, the local land administrative structures, and the entire community of West Nile to start embracing gender equality, to start embracing a girl child, to start embracing widows and recognizing their rights on land. And lastly, for government, I will put two asks. West Nile has a lot of land gazetted as reserve. The population is increasing. Can government reconsider the gazetting some of this area to give people a livelihood and an identity on this land?
And I also had people complaining, the citizens, that there are no animals. Is it true?
You'll bear with me, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm quite certain you did fly to this place. You enjoyed the geographical scenery while you were coming.
It was so beautiful.
It was very beautiful.
I must agree, yes.
You could watch as long as your eyes can reach. You will only be lucky as you are entering Pakwach to see one or two elephants.
I didn't see one.
Indeed, they are animals, but they are not as much as they were at the time when these geographical extents were being mapped. This is the reason why communities are saying, yes, we want to coexist with the animals. But the numbers have increased for the population. Can we reconsider reducing the gazetting some areas to give the citizens a livelihood?
All right, Godfrey, right there. Thank you very much. A social worker with Pelham? Yes.
Yes. Pelham, Uganda.
Pelham, Uganda. Yes. All right. This is the Land Awareness Week 2020, which kicked off on Monday, August 3rd, and will be stretching up to, that is Friday, August 7th, and we are discussing how we can secure land rights for socio-economic transformation for all. Yes, right here we shall be strengthening, yes, farming communities, women, men, and other vulnerable groups to actually keep on their feet. But how will they be able to do that if we do not disseminate information and create awareness, which is what we are doing right now? So we are going to take a very short break, but when we do return, I'm going to hear from the area leaders, the MPs. What are they doing to alleviate the suffering of the people in this area? Or are they just simply in Parliament sitting on their talents? Yes, we shall hear that and a lot more after this short break. You're watching the People's Parliament with me, your speaker, Romeo Busiku. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the People's Parliament, the only platform that gives you a chance to air out your views, the challenges, and also the recommendations for the government and other development partners to act on those grievances. That's why we are here, and we are talking about the Land Awareness Week 2020. The hashtag, by the way, I did mention that is LAW 2020. We are here to strengthen farming communities, the vulnerable women, the men and the young people right there through information dissemination, which we are doing right now, and awareness creation. But right now, at this point in time, the ball is in the court, in the August House. I would want to listen to some of the views from the members of the public, the citizenry. I'm sure they never lie. You have nothing to lose when you tell the truth. So let me hear from, first, the bishop. Introduce yourself, where you're coming from, the area exactly. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm Alphonse Watakwedi. I'm the bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Nebi. And I come to address myself on the issue of institutional lands.
Go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, sir, I remember very well in 2010, we visited the president at the State House in Entebbe. And I had the privilege to speak to His Excellency about institutional lands. The Constitution of Uganda speaks about the rights of citizens as far as land is concerned, and also that the fact that every citizen is equal before the law.
Right.
I put this question to His Excellency. I looked at the institutional lands because there are many institutional lands which are now being attacked and are under grabbing. And many of you have read the Constitution of Uganda. I asked the president why in the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda there is not the slightest clause to protect institutional lands. And also asked him why in the Land Act there is nothing that protects institutional lands. Some of these institutions came before the government, and they are here to stay. The president's response was, institutional lands are sacrosanct, coming from sacredo, or sacred, implying that they're like holy things which cannot be tampered with by anybody. I told the president, that is only on your mouth. It is on your lips. You don't find it anywhere in the Constitution. How can we use that to help us as institutions when we have land disputes, when we have land conflicts? He asked the Archbishop then to follow that up so that this could be looked into. I want to begin by requesting the Ministry of Lands, who have organized this land awareness,
Yes.
to think seriously about this aspect of the Constitution. I asked the president whether this was by omission or commission. Because the whole country to have a constitution and which is fully aware of institutions, and that institutions don't exist in the air and would have nothing to protect institutional lands. And you will all agree with me, we have a lot of institutions which have been pushed off, like the Shimoni kind of place, and as churches and mosques, we have many people who are trying to grab church land, and there's so many of them in courts. But how can the courts rule well when they have no basis, when they have no point of reference? So my appeal to the Ministry of Lands and also to this forum is to plead with the government to think about institutional lands. I was born in the time of the colonials, before independence. I saw what happened in the previous governments. I think the rate at which institutional lands are being attacked under this regime is very alarming. And this is because there is nothing that protects the institutions. I would be grateful if something could be done to that effect. And as I speak, as the head of the diocese, I have more than 6 land cases. And the problem with the courts is they never end. I have some cases which have been heard by more than 5 or 6 judges or magistrates, but they don't pass a ruling. When the court session is going on, I mean, whichever magistrate comes, he comes to start listening to the witnesses. The magistrate gets transferred at the point of enjoying the music of the witnesses. And this has happened to the extent that these judgments are never passed. And the institutions suffer. They lose a lot of money in court litigations. I also want to appeal through this parliament, if the government could do something about this kind of thing. Because the magistrates preside over these courts. But if they're not intentional in sorting out these things and getting them out of their way, these things will continue dragging and dragging. And who suffers? It is the citizens. Now, when I go to court, I have to spend money going to the court. I don't eat the whole day. And I have to facilitate the lawyer who is coming for this court. We end up losing a lot of money.
And do you believe the multinational companies and strong individual people have a hand in this?
Not quite.
But what do I mean by a hand in it? The judicial system. Do you believe these multinational companies are in bed with the courts to suppress the people?
I'm not very sure about that.
So why isn't, because we are wondering, why isn't justice forthcoming? Some people have been waiting for judgments since 2001. I think we shall hear from the area leaders.
That would be my question also. That's an answer I want to hear. Why do the courts behave the way they do? And yet they are there to dispose of issues that come before them.
All right.
And it is, I mean, apart from the institutional lands, where there are land disputes between individuals, the same thing happens. And I have a case in Paida where the church land is now being eaten up. It is in courts. You go for court injunctions. The court gives you court injunction. You serve the other party with the court injunction. As a church, we respect whatever the court says. But you see people continuing to do things. And some of these children of grandchildren of parents who gave land to churches, they come to claim these lands. And when you're in court with them, they begin to sell this land off. And people buy them. Right now in one of the one of the places in St. Paul, people are building, they're almost reaching the church cemetery. You go to court, they give you court injunction, you take it to police.
Please address the audience.
Thank you. You take it to police, the police do nothing. So I don't know how this parliament can help us, but I think
we shall hear from the area
appeal
leaders.
is, my prayer is the government helps us in these kind of situations. The institutions are here to stay. And again, in terms of individuals, when you remove somebody from his land, then where do you take him?
Okay, before I bring in Ms. Orombi, let me hear from another member of the public.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, your name first, where you're from, and your submission.
Thank you. My name's Dennis Obo from the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Now, my submission will begin by informing you that West Nile, actually as a region, I think has a total of about 1,300 certificates of customary ownership, 757 leasehold titles, 2,581 freeholds, totaling to about, I think, 4,500 registered parcels. Now, this is less than 5% of registered land, and this is where our first challenge comes in. Honorable Speaker, as we are lamenting, as we are complaining, I think it is important to know what the law says.
Please go ahead.
It is important that us as customary owners do take steps to register and secure our interests in land. That's why we're having all these problems of customary owners being called users of land, users of unregistered land. Now, this is very dangerous, but at least it flags off something that you really need to take steps, which are easy, pick forms, fill in, and have your land registered before other people come up, because disputes usually arise on unregistered land.
Now, is this usually intentional or ignorance, not knowing what to do?
To me, I wouldn't call it ignorance, but I think we need to do more sensitization and avail the tools for registration in English and local language, so that people can be able to fill in, know what they are filling in, and we'll be able to process this. Most of these transactions, Mr. Speaker, do take place, begin at the sub-county, go to the district, and back to the sub-county. Very easy. Then for those that are in the freeholds is where you have a very long and tedious process, which is more expensive. You need a surveyor, you need to survey your land, you need to go to the district land board, and from there they forward it to the ministry zonal offices for titling. So I think let us take steps to remove this tenure insecurity. Because if we don't, then somebody else will come and do it. And once that person has a title, it is going to be very difficult for you to actually undo it, because you have to go to court, and we have heard how long court cases take. So it may become a nightmare to you. Now, I also would like to submit on the issue of relating this. I want to relate it to cities. Mm-hmm. It was mentioned, you know, we have had the creations of cities, municipalities, town councils, urban centers, from areas which were rural and which had predominantly customary owners. And what is happening is that the customary owners are being told that they can only acquire leases. What it means, acquiring a lease, is that you're actually begging another owner somewhere to give you rights to own your land. To use, not to own, but to use your land. And then after a certain period of time, it reverts back to that other person. Really, this is not right. Customary owners should know that you can still get a certificate of customary ownership or a freehold. Remain the owner, but you must comply with land use and the land use, the land use purpose that has been given for that land. There are physical development plans that are developed, and it only tells you what you can use your land for. If it says this place is a residential area, then you can only use it for residential, but you cannot have the farming, the goats, the animals in that area, but the land becomes yours. Actually, it is like how you see the motor vehicles. You are the owner of a car, but you have to follow the rules and regulations of driving this car on the road. That is all. It should not remove your ownership from you. Mr. Speaker, for now, that is my submission.
And the issue of sacred land that Bishop talked about, what do you have to say about that?
Well, on the issue of institutional lands, I actually thank the Honorable Bishop. The ministry too is concerned about institutional lands. Institutional lands fall in about 3 categories.
Right.
You have those that were surveyed and titled. Those are safe. Then you have those that were surveyed and not titled. Those are a bit safe. But you have those which were not surveyed and not registered, titled. Those are the ones that have fallen victim to what I would like to call stale claims. You know, if land was given in 2008 by a community, by elders, then 3 generations afterwards, somebody wants to say, it is not yours and we are taking it away, we are taking it away back from you. It is wrong and it shouldn't arise. Those are the stale claims. But these stale claims are happening because the institutions that were given that land did not take steps to regularize their stay and acquire some sort of documentation to show that they are actually now the owners. And that's where the ministry is going to come in and help such institutions to see how best we can secure not only the institutional lands, but even the lands that are holding the wildlife, the animals, those that are holding the critical ecological systems. All these need to be secured because we need to coexist. That's my submission.
You're not off the hook yet. Your boss, the lands minister,
Yes.
Betty Kamia, she actually passed a decree saying no one should be evicted during the lockdown. This has continued. People have been evicted in Kiriandongo. I'm sure you're aware of that. Why is this continuing to happen, and what is the Ministry of Lands doing in that effect?
It is true evictions have continued in the lockdown. I myself have received reports from about 13 districts. That was a basis, well, not evictions, but threats to evict.
There were also evictions?
Yes. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would like to lay on table the guidelines that were issued by the minister on what should be done, where you should go to report, and indeed evictions are not supposed to take place unless they are by court orders. I shall not go into the details because we have distributed this book as part of creating awareness. We have given it to all RDCs in the region and all DPCs. For those that are here present, we shall also give you a copy of the book, which actually shows the guidelines on what you should do, where you should go, what you should report, and where you can assist, you can get help from. These are the guidelines that were issued by the Minister of Lands. I beg to lay this copy on the table.
Please do. But then, as recent as June, multinational companies in Kiriandongo have been evicting people, stuffing water sources with sand. Cases of defilement have come up. What is the Ministry of Lands doing? And is it true police and RDCs are colluding with these multinational companies?
We have held, my minister has held a meeting, an interministerial meeting with the Minister for Security, the Minister for Local Government, the Minister for Internal Affairs, the Minister for Justice, and the Ministry of Lands herself. And they have agreed on measures to make sure that whatever happened does not happen again. We are hoping that we shall move around, sensitizing areas where such unfortunate actions are taking place, and ensure that the law enforcement agencies are at hand to actually help those people that are victims of such illegal evictions. What was agreed upon was that each district was to put in place a toll-free number where victims would call and report, and help would be received.
All right.
The same help number would then also transmit that information to the ministry, and together would form a team that would come to help those people that have been evicted or under threat of evictions.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure the public has accepted your submission. All right, another member of the public, and I call it Raps. Do you have something? Let me see right there in the middle before I come to you, Ms. Orombi. You have some very, very good 20 minutes, or even 30. There are so many challenges that have been highlighted, so you'll be on the spot. Please. You have 2 to 3 minutes.
Good, I was the one who said the time.
Huh?
I said the time myself.
I'm the speaker.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members of People's Parliament.
Go ahead.
I'm called Dakuma Malik. I'm here for Town Clerk Municipal Council. Mr. Speaker, land matters are sensitive.
Get closer to the mic.
And it's very important to handle them with maximum attention. Yes, I want to begin by adding my voice to what a colleague from Pelham, he said about regazetting protected land for public interest in order to achieve livelihood of our people.
Okay.
I would like to disagree a bit. One, we need the protected land. We need the animals. We need the natural resources. That is sustainable development. We want the next generation to come to see the animals. There should be an alternative. Mr. Speaker, as we are talking now, by the year 2050, world would have moved urban. 60% of the population would be urban. Therefore, instead of regazetting the protected land, there is need to industrialize our country. There is need to improve subsector so that the pressure, which is so much on land, those conflicts over land will definitely reduce. That's one thing which I feel, Speaker, I should put right, that we need to look for an alternative other than regazetting the protected land.
All right, but then we have members of the public who are saying they can live hand in hand with nature. Is that feasible?
Yeah, it is feasible so long as they are regulated, because there should be laws and policies to regulate
I think that was Godfrey's submission.
It's very important, yes. We need to have the laws, the regulations to govern that. It's very important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes,
Another, the final one.
Okay, thank you. I still have one. Thank you very much. The issue of land awareness campaign is very good, but Mr. Speaker, it's like it's regional, although it is nationally, but it is celebrated regionally. There should be, it will be important to make it a national event in a way that even if it is hosted by Western region, other regions should be able to celebrate it so that awareness it cuts across. It's like it is regional, it is only handled here. That's one of the opinions. And then two, we need to ensure that customary land registration should be made compulsory. I want to say this, Mr. Speaker, you remember UPE, which was free, could even still not prompt other parents to take their children. It needed some compelling kind of policy. So Parliament should ensure that customary land ownership is made compulsory, and more funding, please, more funding to the Minister of Land. Minister of Land even houses urban, because I'm from urban, the biggest. There's need for more funding so that other issues, like you talk of national, international, local conflicts, like he did talk about the conflict between Yumbe and Arua on Iwanga. I come from there. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that conflict was not aroused by oil exploration. It came as way back 2000. And there are so many other factors, not only oil. So there is a need for government to ensure that all these conflicts, nationally, internationally, be put to rest, because these are the source of insecurity. I thank you so much. I don't want to talk much, but I have more other points. But I want to say
we shall call you back. We shall call you back.
Sensitive life and death. Insecurity, we should not joke around, because every development takes place on land. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Another member of the public. I need a lady. I need a lady. Please. 3 ladies. Yeah, 1, 2, and yeah, 1, 2, 3. And then Mr. Rombi comes in. Okay.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm called Kefo Moli, District Councillor representing the people of Darabur and the Texas County. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Concerning land issues in West Nile, and I speak on behalf of the Lur people, we are governed here by a kingdom. And this kingdom has empowered our people, our elders, and to make to create a kind of society that has disadvantaged the girl child. And we have had the reports from Action Aid, we have had the reports from the first speaker that have all talked about the girl child not being recognized in a family. And this I speak as a people's representative, that it is the truth. A woman in the society where we live in has been disempowered. A woman has been seen as a nobody that must inherit land. One time I give in reference to this, that one time we went to talk to the people in the community, in one of the communities, that when we were talking to the elders, one of the elders, Honorable Speaker, stood to our faces and told us, in our clan, a woman will never and will never inherit land. And that was to our disappointment. So I call upon the land ministry, I call upon the parliament to empower our kingdom. You know, there is a saying that to catch a thief, you use a thief. It is the same kingdom that has created this, that a woman is not to inherit land previously, years ago. And let the same kingdom rise up and say, yes, a woman is a human being. She's as much equal
as the male child.
So you're saying this sensitization campaign won't achieve much if the Alur kingdom is not involved?
Yes, because the kingdom is mostly heard
And respected.
and respected.
Right.
Then the religious leaders stand together with the kingdom, bring in the laws. Let us all stand together and speak to the kind of generation that still says the woman is not supposed to inherit
I believe
land.
the message has been sent home, and we are running out of time. I still have two more women that would like to speak. Yes,
Thank you.
There you are. The women shouldn't be neglected. We are here for you.
Mr. Speaker. I'm called Rama Priska, and I am a journalist here.
All right.
I want to start from where my colleague stopped. She said the kingdom should do something. And I want to say that in 2015,
Right.
the king himself came out and made a pronouncement that
Get closer to the mic.
all women should be treated the same way. All girls should be treated the same way with the boys, and made them, women gave them the right. All the chiefs were given this, and they were supposed to make sure that women have rights to land. And it is true, women do not have rights to land. You can see here, most people here are men. When you take the information out, most people are men, women are not there. We have this mindset that we cannot manage. As women ourselves, we should stand up and say that we can manage and have land and own land. Even if you own land and you have a girl child, make sure that you consider your land. Even women themselves, when they have land, they will first consider their boys instead of considering the girls. So as women ourselves, let us also stand up and fight for our rights. We cannot sit and wait. If you wait, you will not get it. Thank you.
And have the chiefs implemented the recommendations of the Alur king?
They are trying, but I must say, with the culture here, because it reaches a stage where when you don't give the chiefs anything, you don't get justice. Justice at the lower level is still lacking because of what you can give. If you cannot give, you will not get the justice you want.
One final lady, one minute. 1 minute. I have to go for a short break. Yes. You can get it closer to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My name is Josephine Akia Loyembazi, working with Pelham Uganda, Participatory Ecological Land Use Management. I'd like to add my voice to two main issues. One is on the issue of land and extractives and natural resources.
Right. Can you exhaust all that in a minute?
I'll try to.
Okay.
This place and region is really blessed with a lot. And what is happening is that there are lots of land injustices that are happening because they have to displace people. And you rightly said it, Mr. Speaker. During COVID, we saw an escalation of that. My appeal to the government and to our people within the Western region is to have a roundtable format where there is stakeholder involvement and consultative meetings before these evictions are done. The other is on investments. You talked about what is happening in Chiriandongo, what is as a result of the sugarcane companies that are there and the tea growing companies. And the reports that we are receiving currently is that most of the people are not consulted, and the people that are buying these lands from the community, they are not against investment. They want to grow, they want to develop, and just like other speakers have said, but they are not involved in the process. You wake up one morning and they're telling you this land belongs to Tea Company X, this land belongs to Lieutenant General Kano X, and these people are displaced. So our humble appeal through you, Honorable Speaker, is that can we have land rights restored for the people of West Nile?
All right, thank you very much. The Land Awareness Week 2020 is being observed under the theme Secure Land Rights for Socio-Economic Transformation. We are looking at strengthening farming communities, men, women, young people, boys and girls through information dissemination and creating awareness, something that we are doing right now in the People's Parliament with yours truly, the Speaker, Romeo Busiku, who's going to be calling for a short break. I'm sure some of my members in the audience would like to grab some water. All right. A minute, we'll be right back with more right here on the People's Parliament. Don't go too far. Thank you for staying with us right here on the People's Parliament with me, the Speaker, yours truly, Romeo Busika. We are discussing the Land Awareness Week that kicked off on August 3rd, that is Monday this week, and will be climaxing tomorrow. So on Thursday, we decided why doesn't the People's Parliament come to Nebi District to give the people of Nebi a voice so that they could actually put their leaders to account. So at this point in time, we'd like to bring in some of the area leaders. We'll start with the LC3 chairperson for Erusi Sub-County, that is Jalasida Collins. Yes, gentlemen, please make it fast because we have a little less than 40 minutes to exhaust everything that we need to.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. I'm Rom Collins Jalasida, the LC3 chairperson Erusi Sub-County, and also chairperson Land Rights Advocacy Team Nebi. I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I would like to thank Pelham Uganda for initiating the CCO registration in my sub-county. And while we look forward to receiving the certificates, I want to register a lot of appreciation from my people, because even the inspection alone has neutralized so many of the conflicts that had existed. I would like to recommend, therefore, that the Ministry of Land should be able to have a mechanism to restructure the land structures in the sub-counties, in the districts, so that more of the customary lands are registered. Because I know customary lands in Uganda account for more than 60%. And I think in that way we shall be able to really support the rural poor. I would also like to register to you that in my sub-county, we had cases of powerful individuals who have been conniving even with the court system to procure unscrupulous evictions.
I think, Bishop, you've been answered.
And I can even cite some examples in Agweshi, in Nziri, in Omunda, where we had to intervene with the help of the office of the RDC.
Yes.
And we have tried really to succeed, but it has stopped at mediation level. At one point, we were even accused, myself and the office of the RDC then, accused of being bribed by very vulnerable community. It actually brought in the whole presidential advisor on the RDC's desk to my sub-county. And that was the time the whole team realized that we were not bribed. Actually, the community was so vulnerable that they could not bribe us. And they realized we were fighting for the justice of the poor. I would therefore request that in my sub-county, since the inspection has only covered 3 parishes of Payera, Pajor, and Padolo, I humbly request Ministry of Land, with the intervention of Pelham, that the remaining parishes of Pashaka and Abongo should also be brought on board. Finally, since time is not our best ally, we have settlers. In the 1960s, there were settlers who came as refugees. A similar incident is almost happening now in Zombo. When these people came as refugees from Congo, the government had an initiative to take them to Karamoja. But the local, the local leaders resisted. And when these people remained here, instead of going back to Congo, they did not go. They integrated with the community. Now, because of the upsurge in the population, the generations and the generations after these grandfathers, they are now claiming land. And we have had cases of evictions based on this ground.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would humbly request that the Ministry of Land and even this team that has come now should have some interest in what is happening in Zombo now. Because if that issue of the refugees is not handled properly, I am telling you the effect
don't worry,
after this
we have Patricia
will be more than what we are looking at now.
She'll be responding to that.
I thank you so much. I have many things, but in the interest of time, I want to thank you for this opportunity. And today, as we shall be going up, I request if you could have, if your team could have, even the journalists alone from NTV could go to my sub-county.
Indeed.
We are bordering Democratic Republic of Congo.
We shall explore that, and Patricia Nyetho, the permanent secretary of the area MP Zombo,
thank you so much.
All right, before we get to Emmanuel Orombi, we haven't spoken to any PWDs, persons with disabilities, and I can see one in the room. Gentlemen, would you like to say something? Could you please approach? Kulubazi, help the gentleman approach the mic, because if we do not hear from PWDs whom we have come here to talk to, then it doesn't make any sense at all. And as he actually makes his way to the podium, I would like to thank all the members who are in the audience. You have braved the heat. We had to switch off the ACs because, you know, these ACs propagate the spread of the coronavirus. So we had to switch them off for your safety. And I really thank you for actually being patient and braving the heat. Thank you very, very, very much. That's one of the persons living with disabilities. Would like to hear what are their challenges, what are they dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Are persons with disabilities also being pushed out of their land, or are we seeing something different? All right. And of course, the Land Awareness Week 2020 is being observed under the theme, Secure Land Rights for Socio-Economic Transformation. And indeed, we cannot transform our socio-economic paradigm if we do not talk to the people who are affected the most, that is the women, the men, and also the persons living with disabilities. All right. Stephen, how are we doing? All right. Do you need an interpreter? All right. You'll interpret. All right.
I go there, I go sub-county. Village, Akanga village, Mbaro.
Janet, you can come this side so that, oh, we have someone.
I have a problem on issues of land.
Right.
Yeah, I go sub-county, Akanga village. On one Mirakanga.
In my sub-county, we, the people living with disability, we do not have land that are distributed to us. I was living on the land where my mother was living, but later was told mothers do not have lands. Lands belong to fathers. Later they gave me a land 15 kilometers away, meters away from that very land.
Tiny.
Yes. When I reported the issues to the elders told me, we think we are lawyers. The only piece of land I can live in is only that piece that they gave me. You who always sits down, will you be able to dig? What will you use the land for? When I reported to the LC5 office, these people came with matches, with pangas to kill me. They said before the district leadership comes in, we should kill him before that. Even the plantings that I had within, they would pluck them off. It brought me a lot of problems. Even now, as I talk, I do not have where to live. I live like a bird in the air. When they came to kill me, the woman, the wife that I had, that should have stood with me and supported me, decided to turn to their side, supporting those very people. Right now, I do not know where my children are, where my things are. That is why I am here.
Thank you very much for that wonderful submission. 5 meters of 15 meters of land. That is barely anything. Mr. Lukurombi, Mr. Emmanuel Rombi, the OC5 tier person, you sent men to kill the gentleman. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, for People's Parliament and members at large. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
What is happening?
Yes, my name is Orombi Emmanuel Chairman, LC5 of Nebi District and the youngest chairperson in Uganda. I think the greatest challenge my leadership has ever faced is the issue of land wrangles. I don't know whether my predecessors did not see this.
Please first address the gentleman, please.
Now to the PWD, I think I've been the only shelter to him ever since he has been facing the challenge. I'm also blessed to have their representative being one of my secretaries, that is Secretary for Land and Production. I felt in the same spirit as people underrate and underestimate their capacity, that could be the best person to handle. And we have ever been sitting in the office handling the issue, except each time he comes, these people keep threatening him.
So how far have you gone to alleviate his suffering? The man says he's living like a bird in the sky.
I didn't know that much, but the little I know is that his issue is being handled. Like any other case of land everywhere. You can't say his is the most special one.
So
you have
give us a time scale. In how long should we expect him to get some help?
LC5 does not have gun and does not have anything to protect him physically. I protect him through advocacy. And my RDC is here, has registered the case, and after this will be in position to dispose it of. But it will need a legal proceeding that he needs justice. That will run back to court again and still come back to Ugandans and fellow members saying too much court backlogs. These kinds of cases should have been disposed of long ago. That's why they keep threatening him. Now he looks at me as his shelter and shield. But it should have been the constitution to protect him, not personality. What if tomorrow I'm voted out? Where will he go? You see? Now that is the tears. But I've come also not on that. If you are done with that, then I can put my prayers or recommendations to the government of Republic of Uganda.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Orombi, for your wonderful submission. But we also have some people who are in the NTV tent who are observing social distancing. We would also like to engage them to hear what do they have to say. Kulubazi, could you get me 3 members of the public to come and speak to us who are actually in the tent? We don't want to leave anyone behind. Sisi, in the fastest way possible, could you get me 1 person, a lady from the tent, a man, at least 2 ladies and a man? Yes. There he's coming. Of course, we are talking about the Land Awareness Week 2020 under the theme Secure Land Rights for Social Economic Transformation. The hashtag is LAW2020. Engage us on Twitter, Facebook, and so forth so that we could be able to share your views. We have all the area leaders in our midst. Gentlemen, a very good afternoon. Your name and your submission. 2 minutes.
Yes, I'm called Rotomio Kizito. I'm a clan member of Avoja community in Atiak sub-county, Angol parish. I pray if I can speak in my language.
I have an interpreter. He's on standby.
Yes. I want
to thank this gathering for this important occasion that has given me opportunity also to air out my view. I want to be very brief and laconic. I have this to put.
Lawyers Action Aid
Tuesday this week we interacted with many lawyers, one of them from Action Aid and other people from the Ministry of Land.
Registering manjoash obino wish ko the tin any bang jodongo mage I.
We registered our issue of Angol land, and that's why today I'm here also.
It's about
the kingdom and the Lord Kingdom, and also particularly on the issue of land. I don't want to discuss the leadership of the chiefdom or kingdom, but I want to be particular on the issue of land.
Okay, in a minute. Be brief. Eh?
Yes.
As we have been running our homes under the leadership of our chiefdom,
ruoth mamua ingei kare matok chien ruoth ma oketho tok chien udogula kone lokre komwa eni ipakich.
Our own chief of Pakich turned against us.
Makawoni eni levene dako uro abora.
It has now taken us about 8 years.
Lembe eni wakeli koro bemo.
We could bring this issue, draw attention of the king.
Ekado kare malash eni zo da suka de waraga kudango kukartas mo keo gitiye ibange.
All our correspondences and the letters written, we have the copies with us. They only protect the chief. As I talk, our hearts are set on blaze, over 100.
Summarize with what you need to be done for you.
Lembe muti kesi pa ngomsha ka parliament ma enu chalo binu kishopo konyo akode yuri iobi mukusha pirango itie de le marketing and bear makoloyo.
We request that this honorable house, August House, put Alur Kingdom to task to solve the issue so that we are.
All right, thank you very much.
We don't need too much thing. We just need the home.
All right, Afoyo Matek, did I nail that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
Perfect.
No harm, no harm.
The People's Parliament with yours truly, the Speaker, Romeo Busiko. I still have 2 more members of the public who have been social distancing. We cannot leave them out. Sisi, I have another one right there. You're representing Action Aid International?
Yes.
All right, your name?
My name is Angela Akwa. I'm a manager of the Women Protection Center.
All right.
We give a lot of support to the communities.
What are your findings?
One of the issues that I feel needs to be re-echoed out is the aspect of the local grassroots leadership conniving with perpetrators where we feel, where they are having so many issues of land. Instead of supporting the vulnerable people, they connive with the perpetrators, which instigates a lot of anger and perpetuates the violence against people in regards to land at the communities. So this is where I request for the district leadership to come in and support the CSOs and other service providers in helping fighting such an issue. It's a big problem that we encounter when we are carrying out our various duties. He's one of our clients. Unfortunately, the perpetrator is an LC1 chairperson, very arrogant. We've tried to interface with him. The way he reacts is very adamant, which is unfortunate. His case is in court. We are trying to follow it up. Together with the other, I have some other victims of land grabbings. So I would implore the district to work with us and help deal with these local structures who work against our efforts to help the grassroots structures.
And this People's Parliament shall bring them to book. Thank you very much for that wonderful submission. And of course, you're still watching the People's Parliament. Taking a short break should be paramount right now so that my people can get some, a chance to breathe some fresh air since the ACs were turned off. So it will be a minute of a break and we'll be right back with recommendations. I'd like to hear from the RDC, the Chief Administrative Officer, and other leaders, especially development partners. What are the resolutions that you have for this government and area leaders? What should they be focusing on? All that and more after the short break. You're watching People's Parliament. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the People's Parliament. We are discussing the Land Awareness Week 2020, which kicked off on Monday, August 3rd, and will be stretching all the way to Friday, August 7th. So the People's Parliament took it upon itself to ensure we give the people of Nebi District a voice so that they could offer those recommendations to government and other development partners so that they could act and alleviate their suffering. So let's hear it from the area leaders. I would like to first get the RDC. Yes, the resident district commissioner. Who is the representative of the president at the district level? That is Mr. Christopher Omara. First of all, is this true that area leaders are colluding with multinationals and very powerful people to grab land from locals?
Mr. Speaker, sir, and members of this August House, my name is Omara Christopher, the RDC Navy. You know, the Chinese say, without investigation, you have no right to speak. If there are evidence that the local leaders were colluding with those...
In Kriandongo, there is evidence.
I have never seen at my desk where the local leaders have actually colluded with the land grabbers here.
Go ahead.
The truth, Mr. Speaker, let me first begin by thanking those who have made their submission, and particularly Honorable Kasamba, who actually appreciated what government has done for this country since 1986 by coming out with the framework and policies and the laws. Mr. Speaker, sir, the most unfortunate element in this regard is that we have a taboo. Not many people have actually opened these laws. Even when they are given, they cannot. And for instance, majority of the population may not appreciate that there has been an evolution for a long time in land policies, in the land laws, and when they're handling cases of land matters, people still stick to their traditions. But also, we should realize that in 1884, when the colonialists sat in Berlin, they had agenda. One of the agenda was to look for raw materials here. The second one is to look for market. And the third one is total domination.
Let's focus on land grabbing.
We have totally forgotten that land was also their target. And they enshrine institutions and systems that promote their interest. And when we talked about land, it therefore means that we must also reflect on our history so that we know this demarcation that we are talking about, it's because of ideological malnourishment. People think boundaries are very important. People think that tribes are very important, but those are not important. The most important thing is that we are human, and that as human beings, we are supposed to utilize this land for our own good as human beings. What I'm saying is that in Navy, for instance, I have been in Navy for 1 year and 1 month. Land issues are very sensitive and pronounced. There's land fragmentation, there's land conflict involving even sisters and brothers. There's land conflict involving institutions and communities, institutions and individuals. If you cite the case of Agule, Kuchwin, Nyarabu, people have died here, people have killed themselves, and land use is not taken as very serious. Water catchment is not like related to land, so there is real issues here, and the most affected has always been women and children. You have had people
What are you doing to solve these issues?
We had series of engagement with the communities. Actually, the last was in Nyipi primary school.
Right.
We wanted people to appreciate the changes in the land laws. We want people to appreciate that we have a responsibility. For instance, you cannot recklessly reproduce and you have hundreds of children and as if land is not a fixed factor of production. Land will never increase in size, but human beings will continue to increase. It means that you must plan accordingly. Two, we ensure that the leaders, we have land committees, we have elected and appointed leaders who sometimes, instead of taking responsibilities, we saw there is a gap. We need to empower them so that they can do their best to ensure that our communities are informed. So
I think you can leave it at that since we are running out of time. I think your message has been sent home. Can we also hear it from the Chief Administrative Officer?
So finally, we need to decolonize our mind, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much.
Yes. Mr. Gilbert Onen, you have 2 minutes. Do you also second Mr. Omara's submission when he says that RDCs and other leaders are not in bed with powerful men and multinational companies?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and members of the August House. And as the RDC has said, indeed, I don't have any evidence to confirm the fact that there has been...
Okay, go ahead with your submission then.
My submission is that on behalf of the district, as one of the land management institution, especially in regards to registration, we are doing our best. As a district, we have a fully fledged institutional arrangement that would address the issues of land registration as per our mandate. We have the area land committees that are all in place. We have the district land board, and we have the structure of the district land office, which is fully failed. And we have been doing our role. But we only need something little to energize us.
All right.
Especially a request from Ministry of Lands. Much as the district land offices are fully fledged, they don't have even a single equipment to do any survey work, and that is our recommendation.
Thank you very much. Minister of Lands, you're representing them, so address the man. Take over. So you can go back. He's going to respond to your... So the district land committees and the area land committees do not have enough money to do their work. What are you doing as the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development to alleviate their challenges?
As government and as a ministry, we have continued to advocate for more funds for the land management institutions at the local government level. Indeed, it is true, boards can only sit for, I think, 1 or 2 times in a quarter. This means it is going to affect the work they do. Now, we have urged partners, stakeholders to come in and see how they can fill in the gap. It is actually one of the recommendations. Government has so many things it's doing, priorities amongst its resources. So usually we do not have enough that is given to us. But this doesn't mean that we should stop the work that our institutions have to do.
Okay,
And
thank you very much. That's all?
So, well, what we can say, we have fees. We encourage local governments to charge the fees and be able to generate revenue. The registration of the certificates generates fees. You can get revenue from them. And also from whatever subsequent transactions, it is between 5,000 and 20,000. That money should be able to generate enough money to sustain the lower local government institutions, other than look always to government.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Patricia Nyitho, it's your time now. The Permanent Secretary representing the woman MP for Zombo. Patricia Nyitho, we are waiting on you. We have a little bit like 3 minutes to end this show. So many questions have come about, and would like to hear from you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Get closer to the mic.
3 years ago, we, as a Lur Kingdom, we had the He for She movement. It was a campaign to fight against gender.
I don't think the last person can hear you.
3 years ago, we had the He for She movement. It was a campaign to fight against gender inequality. And one of the inequalities was with regard to ownership of land. And the King of Alur has stood firm to say that even women should own land. Mine is just a call to the different stakeholders in this country of ours, that women must stand up also and speak. And you, the men, you should also listen to see how these opportunities for women come, especially opportunities in land use. If you don't let us talk, we shall never develop. We as women, we contribute to the economic development of this country. And land as a factor of production, we women, we also need to have the right to own land. This is my call.
Okay, thank you very much, Patricia.
And lastly, inadequate information to women on land rights is a very big problem.
Okay, let's get some legal advice. Don't worry. We have an expert who's around. We have a lawyer who's going to be explaining
And
more
also
on
to
that.
the local governments, my call is that let them co-opt women on the district land boards.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have a lawyer in our midst. Please make your way to the podium. Yes, of course, like I mentioned before, we are conducting the Land Awareness Week 2020 under the theme Secure Land Rights for Socio-Economic Transformation. And there she is, the legal aspects of land rights. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Lillian Atwaire. I work with Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity. Thank you, NTV, and thank you everyone for turning up. My take on this session and even the Land Awareness Week is members of the public fight for the rights of women, and women speak up and fight for your rights. What we have seen in the communities is women were left behind, and we tried as much as we can to talk to them about their rights, and you should keep talking to them, mostly men. When you turn up for the meetings, try to encourage the women, because a woman who is empowered, who is educated, who knows the rights of the land, will secure the land and will have it for development for the whole clan or for the family and even for the whole nation. So seek information, learn, and try to practice it as much as you can. That is what I can tell to everyone who is viewing and who is part of this Land Awareness Week, and it should cut across, whether you're a religious leader, a teacher, a cultural leader, I don't know, whoever, please speak up, because people need this information.
Please, women, speak up. Yes, it starts with you. Mr. Orombe, you had something to say, resolutions. I bombarded you with questions, you were complaining, so as a health safety person, help us give some resolutions.
I have the following prayers to put to government and to the public. One, about the cost of acquiring land title and all these land certificates, what we are calling it. It should be tagged in terms of percentage, because I cannot struggle for survey of the land, to surveyor to work on my land when the cost is higher than the cost of the land I'm acquiring. An acre in the village here is 500,000, but the cost for acquiring land title may be much more than that. That is one. Number two, this one goes to the ministry. We have been moving a lot, and the offices for land, it seems to be very far. I advocate and ask for one deputy in Nebia for our sub-region to make work easier. I've already been tipped that you need 2 in West Nile, let one be in Nebi here for proper coordination. That is my request. And then lastly, recognizing, if you're an African and you don't believe that witchcraft is real, then you are denying yourself that you are not an African. So we should not pretend. Let us recognize the traditional leaders in solving land conflict, so that they can also be in position to dissect the issue of land conflict and witchcraft. Thank you so much.
And Mr. Orombe, please investigate
please.
the issue of area leaders colluding with these unscrupulous people to steal people's land. Investigate.
If you have 10 problems, begin by solving number 1. So the issue of elders having problems and being instigative is number 2. Number 1 is to first recognize them. Then we shall get, how do we put them right to solve land issue? That is number 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orombe, and I would like to thank all the members who are in this audience. I would like to thank you who is at home watching. Yes, in Kampala, Hoima, Masindi, and the United States, Canada. People in the diaspora, we do love you so much, and thank you for having made it a point to watch the People's Parliament with yours truly, the Speaker, Romeo Busiku. I see you all on social media. Twitter, that hashtag LAW2020 is really going berserk. And that is good news for the people of Nebi, because the world is hearing all your problems. And we do hope all the area leaders took note of all the challenges affecting the people of Nebi, and reprieve will be coming soon. The Minister of Lands has given us assurance that something is being done, and the area leaders will investigate whether area leaders are colluding with others to steal people's land. The People's Parliament has unfortunately come to an end. Let's interface on another date. My name is Romeo Busiku. Have yourselves a blessed day.